Okay. Not only have your actions affected me directly, but they have rippled throughout my life.
She asked us not to use her real name, but this is her story.
I carry your violation with me daily. I can't ask for a new body. Although there were certainly days that I wish I didn't exist.
The woman we'll call Jane agreed to read her victim impact statement from her own sexual assault.
One thing I want to make clear to you is that in order to ask for the help and support that I needed to expose the most humiliating and foul experience I've had.
Her story is one of tens of thousands of reported sex crimes that we examined and found they almost never lead to a conviction. They're often dismissed from court records, but not from the minds of survivors.
And change needs to happen with the input of survivors.
As part of our reporting, we spoke to scores of survivors, including many off-camera, all of whom said they were unhappy with the outcomes of their cases. Over a 6-year period, we found of the more than 21,000 victims who reported sex crimes in Chicago alone, police made arrests in fewer than 1,600. That's just 7%. Once in court, the numbers plummeted even further. All told, just 1.5% of all reported rapes and other sex crimes resulted in a sex crime conviction with prison time.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I think the research and data tells us that sex crimes are one of the most underreported of all crimes.
We shared these findings with then State's Attorney Kim Foxx, who told us these cases fail for a variety of reasons.
Oftentimes, these are cases where there are no witnesses, that you have your survivor and the accused. There are occasions where you may have DNA evidence, sometimes you don't. That is often one person's word against another.
NBC News examined police and court records from 16 law enforcement agencies across the country, even filing legal appeals in 4 states over records denials. Overall, we found that less than 4% of reported rapes, sexual assaults, and child sexual abuse allegations ever result in a sex crime conviction. We also uncovered some broader systemic issues. In San Mateo from 2018 to 2023, the NBC Bay Area team found 1 in 4 defendants charged with sex offenses were able to plead down to a non-sex crime, leaving victims without the opportunity to have their day in court.
And I begged her to please not do this, that I was ready. I said I would rather lose on the stand than to let him get away with false imprisonment, which meant nothing.
Following the NBC Bay Area's inquiries, the district attorney's office acknowledged that in hindsight, they wish they would have asked for a continuance to consult the victim further. In Texas, our team discovered that Fort Worth police had missed state deadlines for processing more than 1,000 rape kits over the last 5 years, prompting public outcry and a personal apology from the city's chief.
And they're pissed off, and they should be. I'm pissed off. If this was my daughter, my wife, my mother, I would be as well.
2 other cities even updated their procedures for handling rape kits after the team's investigation. And in San Diego, our team highlighted one mother's battle to expose her child's abuser. Only when she sued did she discover a string of similar accusations against him from other students.
She was 8.
How has that experience changed your daughter?
It's changed her a lot. She's 25 now, and she still deals with the fallout from the trauma of all of it.
He, too, was able to plead down to lesser charges. Back in Chicago, Jane's case shows some of the same patterns of repeat offenders and questionable plea deals. She met a guy on Tinder, an encounter that court records showed led to a sexual assault. What she didn't know at the time, she wasn't the first victim.
That shocked me when I found out that he had done this before and that it was virtually identical. Just the whole process of it, using Tinder, same type of sexual aggression, and all of those details were eerily similar.
Christian Valsich was already out on bail on a 2019 case, facing 4 counts of aggravated sexual assault, when court records show he sexually assaulted Jane in May of 2020. At the time, the court had already barred him from using dating apps. When we reached out to Tinder, they said they were unable to comment on a specific user's account, but that they prioritize safety.
What a bold move for someone to know that they're out on bail for raping and strangling another woman And like, you do it again?
As both cases worked their way through court, there were two different outcomes. Valsich eventually pleaded guilty in Jane's case to a single count of criminal sexual abuse. But in the other case, similar to what we found elsewhere in the country, Valsich pleaded down to a single count of aggravated battery.
Is the charging, the watering down to something that's not a sex crime, is that just?
Again, if we can get accountability, if it's a not guilty versus you have to do some type of sex offender services, if it's you just get to walk and it is, in essence, everything that you've gone through, a judge or jury has said didn't happen at all, versus something else, that's accountability.
Out of the thousands of cases NBC News reviewed, Jane's case is among the small percentage where the perpetrator was held to account. The state's attorney's office has not said why the other case was amended down. We did reach out to Valsich to ask for comment. He said he would get back to us, but didn't, and has not responded to our follow-up attempts to reach him.
I know if I were in the other victim's shoes and that was how it was pled down to me, I think I would feel pretty disregarded.
Bennett Haeberle is joining us now. Bennett, we're so glad to have you. Thank you so much for bringing us that story.
Well, thank you for having me, Hallie.
Of course. So listen, we have this segment on the show called The Backstory, where we pull back the curtain a little bit on how these things come together. And the thing that what you have done, it is a huge collaboration between so many stations across the country, so many of our NBC partners here. How did it actually come about? Can you take us inside some of the mechanics of that to be able to stand up a piece of reporting that has this kind of scale?
Right. There were several conversations. It began as a brainchild from a member of our team, one of our investigative producers, Katie Smizer, and then there were ongoing discussions with other members of the NBC News data team and then the other local stations. And there were a few things that really jumped out to us when we sort of delved into the data. The fact that there were thousands upon thousands of complaints that went to police, and then when you put it in sort of an upside-down funnel, very few made their way into the court system, and even fewer, a small, tiny fraction, as we showed you, end up leading to sex crime convictions. And the other thing that really jumped out was the fact that it seemed to be ubiquitous. The complaints that we heard from women here in Chicago were the same complaints that our teams in the Bay Area heard, that women felt disillusioned or disregarded, that they wanted to have their say in court. And the prosecutor seemed more focused on getting some type of conviction rather than a conviction on a sex crime.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.